Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. It's Miranda. For today's video, we're going to be doing another paint with me video, but it's going to be a little bit more fun, less serious than some of my other videos in the sense of we're not going to be doing any color mixing, not really any preparation beforehand. I just wanted to do something that was easy for everyone to do, not stressful because you don't have to do a ton of preparation. It's not something that's going to take days or weeks to do, just something that you can sit down and do with an hour or two of your time, and you don't need much preparation time before that. So that's what we're going to be doing today, you guys. And it is spring where I am. So this photo back here is what we're going to be painting. It is a magnolia tree. It's a photo that I took a couple weeks ago because, as I said, it's springtime. So I just wanted to do something very seasonal, something that was fun for everyone to do. And even for myself, it's going to be fun to not have to do a ton of preparation and to just sit down and paint because it's supposed to be fun. It's not supposed to be stressful for anyone, and I don't want anyone to be stressed. So this one will be for everyone to do. We're just going to get into it, and I'm going to show you guys the products that I'm using. So before we start our painting, I'm going to quickly share with you guys what products I'm using, and I'll start off with the canvas that I'm using. I have gotten so many questions from so many people when it comes to these boards that I use to paint on. People ask me, where do I get them from? Do I find them outside? Am I going and cutting down my own trees? I am not. I am not a lumberjack, unfortunately, but there is a store where I'm located that is kind of like a general store. It's almost like a dollar store kind of mixed with like a liquidation store. It's the best way for me to describe it. And this is where I get my planks, my wooden planks with the live edge wood that I paint on. Now, I will share with you guys which one it is. Hopefully the camera's focused, but the brand is called Art Minds. And you can look this brand up online, and then hopefully wherever you are located, you'll be able to actually like find maybe something similar, or maybe you can look up and like actually purchase these, because so many people ask me about these, and it's like not an easy product to find because the store that I go to is just like a really random store that is just, there's no other store. It's not like a chain of stores that sells these. It's just like a random store. So these are the boards that I use, and this is the one that I'm going to be using today. So this is a base wood plank, and the size, there's never a size on these. It's kind of like, it just says one piece. So I will measure it and insert the size below so that you can know exactly what size it is, but that's what I'm going to be painting on today. And then when it comes to my brushes, these are the various brushes that I have. Now, will I be using all of these brushes? Probably not, but I just like to have a variety of brushes. If I could give anyone advice, you know, if you're wondering which brushes to use, try to get as many different, like at least have one of each shape of brush in your kit, so then at least you'll have those, because each brush shape really does do different things. So I have a variety of brushes, mostly from Princeton. These ones here are from the Princeton Velvetouch collection. These ones here with the black and the silver, these are from the Princeton Aqua Elite brushes. These are my favorite brushes to use. I use them all the time for both acrylic and my gouache paintings. And then another few that I have are from Royal and Langnickel as well. And these are like these silver ones. So I just have a variety of brushes, but as I'm doing the painting, I'll let you know which one I'm using at the time. And now we're going to talk about what paints we're using. So I'm going to be using a few paints, mostly from Golden. So for instance, this is a Golden set. This is called the Open Intro set. And basically these are slow drying acrylics. I really like to use these because personally for myself, I'm somebody that, like I mentioned in the beginning of this video, I can take a longer time sometimes to do my paintings over several days, over several weeks. So these paints stay wet for an extremely long period of time. And as well, they also come with a dilutant in it that creates more of a long lasting effect. So I will take my colors out and let you know which ones I'm using from this one. You also don't have to use this exact brand of paint. You don't have to use anything exactly as I'm using. You can really do what works best for you. But I would say it would be most important to just stick with maybe similar colors that I'm using, and that way you'll get the most accurate to my painting. So we're starting off with some titanium white. as well, I didn't mention what palette I'm using, so I'll let you guys know in a second here. This is just a really small, cute little palette from Montmartre. I think that's how you say that brand. I honestly am not sure, so excuse me if I'm incorrect, but I'm just using a really small palette today because, like I said, this isn't going to take much time and I don't want to overuse any paint either. I just want to keep it really simple and easy. So that's what we're going to be doing. So that was titanium white, and then we're going to be going in with, this is the benzamide yellow medium. And when I place my colors down, a lot of the time I just like to go from lightest color to darkest color. That's kind of how I do it, just depending. That's what I'm going to be doing today at least. So put that one back. And then the next one we're going to be putting down is some Nathal Red Light. I really need to like look up how exactly to pronounce these words because I'm definitely like not saying all of these colors right. So that's the next one we're going to put down. The next one we're going to be using is Permanent Green Light. I'll also type out the colors below. That way you guys can see the actual spelling and whatnot. And when you want to go and get these colors for yourself, you'll have all the accurate information. Next up is Ultramarine Blue. This will be essential for the sky. So we'll put that down there. And then the last color we're going to be using from this golden set, and these are all the colors that are in there. All 6 colors I put down on my palette. This one is Carbon Black. And I know that I mentioned that it does come with a diluter, so this is the diluter that it comes with. It's called the Open Thinner Dilutant. Open. Oh, I think one of them is the French version and one of them is the English version. So it's just called the Open Thinner. So we'll put that down after as well. And then I have a few other colors that I'm going to put down because obviously, as you can see from our reference photo, these are magnolia flowers that we're painting. So there's obviously a lot of pink, some warmer tones, and I'm not quite sure with this red color if we're going to be able to quite get those tones that we're looking for. So I'm going to add a few more colors from different brands here. Okay, so this one color here is from Amsterdam, and this is called Permanent Red Purple. So these colors that I'm putting down now are mostly going to be for the actual flowers themselves, like I said, just to make sure that we can really get those true kind of pink tones that we're going for. Another one that I'm going to add is Quinaquindrin Magenta. This is from Liquitex, one of their basic acrylics. So as you guys can see, I mean, I have both more of a higher end paint that I'm using on my palette, which would be golden, as well as something that would be considered a lower end, less expensive paint like Liquitex. So that's what I was saying when I was mentioning earlier that you don't have to use exactly like what I'm using. You don't have to have the best paint brand. You really don't. I'm just saying that to say that you don't have to have the best to create beautiful art. You really don't. You can create art with whatever you have available to you. I'm gonna need to get another one of these. This is another one from Amsterdam. I love this brand too. Amsterdam is a really good brand as well. Not too expensive either. And this is called the Naples Yellow Red. So this is nice. This will be a nice for these kind of colors that you can see here in the petals, the softer pink, but it also has a warmer tone to it. That will be nice for those ones there. So we've put those colors down. I'm just gonna add a couple more colors. These ones are from Golden as well. They're just the standard acrylics, not the open acrylic. This color is India Yellow Hue. I like this. It's very similar to like a yellow ochre. I can kind of notice this in this little area here with the grass and whatnot. So I'm just going to put a bit of this on my palette too. The thing that I really like about golden paints is they're really thick and pigmented. Like if I had to say, you know, what is worth it about the golden paints, because they are quite expensive, you know, they're very pigmented. They're very thick consistency, which I like because I'd say it's better to have a thicker paint because you can dilute it to whatever consistency that you want it to be. You can have it thicker, you can have it thinner, and that's why I'm going to add a little bit of this at the end too, so that we can get all the different textures that we're wanting to get. The last color that I'm going to add to my palette, I'm not really sure if we're even going to be using this color, but just in case, I want to mix a little bit of orange in with some of the colors in my petals in my flowers, I'm gonna add a little bit of cadmium orange as well from golden. And I'm just gonna place that one right here. Like, I don't think we're really gonna be needing a lot of this, but I just like to add colors just in case, because sometimes you do use a little bit, even when you don't think you're going to. So those are all of the actual paint colors that we're gonna be using. If I do add something to my palette, I will let you guys know. And then the last thing I'm gonna add is just a little dollop of this thinner, this dilutant. I'm just gonna put it beside the white so that I can dip in there when I'm wanting to use that. And then those are all of our paint colors that we're going to be using today, guys. Okay, so we've gone over what canvas we're using. We've gone over our brushes and our paint. I mean, the last couple things is that I obviously have a little jar of water here, as well as some paper towels so that I can clean off my brushes as I go. And that is pretty much it. I think we're ready to get started on this painting, you guys. So I will unwrap my little canvas and then we're just gonna get started here. I've gone ahead and zoomed you guys in a little bit closer now that we're actually starting our painting so that you can really see in detail what we're doing. So I'm going to begin this painting with this brush here. This is my Filbert brush. This is a 1-inch brush, I believe, and I love this brush. Anyone that has been watching my YouTube videos for a little while now, you know that I literally use this brush all the time, especially with these wooden boards. It just really takes the paint and applies it wonderfully on these planks. So I absolutely love using this brush, especially to start out a painting, specifically the sky. And I'm just getting my brush a little wet in my water before we begin. And we're going to begin by starting out in the sky area in the furthest point. So that would be where the sun is shining and the sky colors. Now, I always like to work from lightest to darkest colors, specifically when I'm working on my skies. So we're going to start by taking a little bit of this titanium white here. Take a little bit of my dilutant and add that in there as well. And we're going to be going for a very, it's very similar to white, but you can tell that there's a touch of like pink and warm in there, as well as a little bit of yellow. So I just went and grabbed a little bit of my color here. That's my Naples yellow red, as well as my benzamide yellow medium, just to create a very like soft off-white kind of color, so that we can begin with that. And I'm going to start over here. Okay. Gonna add a little bit more yellow, specifically around the outer part of where the sun is shining. It's a little bit more yellow, a little bit more pink. So I'm definitely going to make sure that we get that emphasized as well. So I'm going in with a little bit more of my Naples red yellow and a little bit more of my benzamide yellow, just to kind of go around the outside of my sun. Like that. And obviously the sun rays are coming out, so you don't want to be afraid to just move with the direction that the light is. So the light's, you know, coming out like that. Don't be afraid to really emphasize the light, because that is what is, especially in this painting, I mean, the light is prevalent throughout that. The sun rays are very prevalent. So I'm just going to go in and kind of dilute that a bit more out here and continue to bring my colors out a little bit. I'm going to go in with a little bit more of my Naples yellow red, add that in there, as well as a little bit of this colors here. I forget honestly the name of that one, but I'm going to add a little bit of this one in here as well, and a little bit more white too. A little bit of my dilutant, a little bit of yellow in there. I'm really trying to create this color here where the sun rays are prominently shining. So I'm just gonna put this here a little bit. Drag that out. This color is mostly coming at the bottom here, but I will also just continue to drag that up. All right, so that's going to kind of be the beginning of our sun. It's a good little start there, and just going to take a little bit more of this and just apply it on the outsides of the sun. Perfect. A little bit of pink to these spots where we can really see that there's some pink light coming out. Wonderful. Okay, so we'll leave that for now. And then we're going to be going in and adding more of our blue in the background. So I'm going to go in with a bit of a bigger brush. This is a Winsor & Newton brush. This is a Cotman brush, the mop brush, and that's what I'm going to be using next. So as we transition from this part of the painting, it's getting a little bit more blue as we move up. So again, I'm going to get this brush a little wet here. With these colors I just used, I'm going to go in and I'm going to grab a little bit of my ultramarine blue over on this side and add a little bit of my titanium white here too. A little more. And then I'm also going to grab this, like a bit of this color here, just to mix in with this to make sure that it's nicely mixed together. And I'm actually going to start now up at the top and work my way down towards the sun down here. I'm not liking that brush. I'm going back to my filbert brush. As I mentioned, I love my filbert brush. I really love it, especially for like the skies and stuff. Like, it just doesn't get any better than my filbert brush. So I went in and I'm just using a mixture of the blue with my colors that I used for the sun here. All right, so I'm just going to go in with some titanium white, mix it in a little bit more with that blue, and just continue to bring this color down. I also switched to my Velvetouch brush from Princeton to apply this. I'm just trying to get a generally like bigger stroke so that I'm able to apply more color to the canvas. Specifically, like with the first layer, don't be afraid to go in with a bigger brush. Like I honestly should really just get a filbert brush that's a bigger size because I genuinely love that filbert brush. Like, so I'm just gonna have to get one that's a bigger size because at first, you know, it really is easier when you're laying down your first colors to just use a bigger brush so that it covers more surface area, and then as you're getting more detailed, you know, you can switch to like a smaller brush. So I'm just going to continue to bring this color towards the sun here, and just trying to always keep that general like direction of the light rays. Like, I'm applying my color in the direction that the light rays are shining, because it's important to make sure that you keep the general direction of that, or else, you know, it will look off. So I'm just going to continue to apply that and go down in here in this corner and make sure that we get all of that color down here as well. Going in just with more titanium white, using my same kind of combination mixture of colors to just keep, oopsie, to just keep applying this to the canvas. And I'm going to go back in with my filbert brush, and I'm going to start working around this area more towards the sun again, and just create more of those yellow tones and whatnot. So a bit of that titanium white mixed with my benzamide yellow and this Naples red. Just going to continue to add that around the sun and blend that in then with the blue. Gonna mix a little bit more of my titanium blue with my ultramarine. Sorry, gonna mix a little bit more of my titanium white with my ultramarine blue. And gonna add a little bit more of that into this area where I can see it's a little bit more blue based on my reference photo. So just gonna continue building these colors. Like, as you can see, I'm going in with a very light hand. Like, not applying a lot of color at first, like really slowly just kind of building these colors. I'm going to go in with this big mop brush from my Princeton Aqua Elite collection, and I'm just going to grab like what is basically remaining on this little side of my palette, and I'm just going to kind of blend that slightly in with this here. And go in again with this and just continue to add any kind of blue where I can clearly see it's prevalent in my reference photo. Continuing to build my little light rays here. We've laid down our first colors for the sky. I'm going to move now to working on more of the greenery in the background, a little bit of grass, a little bit of trees that there are. I'm going to use my fan brush from my Velvetouch collection from Princeton to start. I'm going to start on what's more in this area here of the background. So I'm going to go in with my titanium white, some of my benzamide yellow, some of my Naples yellow red, and then I'm just going to add a touch of my black just to create more of a shadowy tone to that. And then a little bit of this red I'm also going to add to that. A little bit more black. A little more white. A little more yellow. So looking at my reference photo and just seeing what is in the background, and I'm just being very like, I'm not being too specific with this painting. Like, I'm not gonna worry about being too realistic. Like, that's not what we're gonna be going for with this painting because of just the amount of time that we have to do it. It's not gonna be something that's gonna be exactly like this photo that we're using. So I do need to add some brown to my palette because as you can see, there's definitely some brown in these trees here and in these trees here. I don't know why I didn't think of it to begin with, but we're adding it now. So this is my burnt umber from Liquitex. I'm just gonna add a bit of that over here near my black. And I'm going to continue working on this tree section here and just slowly working my way closer towards the sun. I'm going to go in with this brush now from Royal and Langnickel. This is another filbert brush, just a smaller one. And so I'm going to go in and grab some of this burnt umber and paint out some tree branches here. Go in with my fan brush to then add the little bit of foliage that you see here. And as you can see, the fan brush just adds such a nice, natural texture of a tree. You should like, that's why I was mentioning before that it's just like important to have like at least one of each brush in your kit, because if not, you're just missing out on different brush strokes that will allow for your painting to look better. And that's not something that, you know, you obviously want to be doing. So fan brush is awesome. I love using my fan brushes for foliage and things of that nature. So I'm going to go in with a bit more of my titanium white and put that down here, a little bit more of my Naples red, and put that down here as well. And just going to work on adding that a little bit to... Actually, what I'm going to do is, because there's some black in this section now, I just wiped that off because the black is just making it a color that I am not wanting it to be. So I'm going to go back in with some titanium white. I got my red here that I added a little bit of, and I'm going to put a little bit of my yellow in there as well. And we're just going to add this color towards these sections here that are really close to the sun and just brighten that up. I'm going to go back in with this smaller filbert brush here. Take this color here that I've mixed, and I'm just going to work on creating the light on the ground a little bit more. And then I'm also going to go in and create the shadows a little bit more as well. So I'm going to start adding these greens that you see in the grass. So I'm going to go in with my green here, add a little bit of my India yellow, add a little bit of my burnt umber, A little more burnt umber. Okay. And then we're going to start by mixing in a little bit of this color that we used for the light, because we're going to be working around the sun here. So we don't want this color to be too intense yet. And as we move back, it will get darker. A little more India yellow, a little bit more white too, specifically for these areas over here. I'm actually going to go in with my larger filbert brush again. Mix in a little bit more of my green with my burnt umber, and I'm going to start over here a little bit where the shadows, the darker shadows in the grass are. I'm going to go in on this side and put some India yellow with some of my benzamide yellow, as well as some titanium white. I'm trying to create now this color that you see shining on the grass, and then that way I can start placing that color down as well. There's some areas where it's more yellow, a deeper yellow, and some areas where it's lighter. So I'm going to start with the more yellow areas, like over here. Just continuing to build my greens in my grass area. I'm not going to be adding, because this was a cemetery that was like the photo that I took in a cemetery. I'm not going to be adding any of the gravestones or anything like that. I'm just going to be adding the grass and whatnot. All right, I'm liking how that's looking so far. It's very pretty. I need to go over this section here, but I'm going to go in with just some white. So one of the things that does happen sometimes with these boards is that since it's obviously wood, there can be some natural rings in it, and I will have to paint over those rings like several times to get, you know, it to not show. So that's something that I'm going to do now. I'm just going to put a little more white over it because it just really needs to be not so bright. Not so dark. And going to go in with a little bit of my blue-ish sky color that I use. Just gonna. I might also just put a flower like in this, you know, area here too, so that it's a little less obvious because it's going to be difficult to cover that one. I'm going to go in again with my filbert brush and apply some of my light sunray colors in these sections here where it's kind of just empty or blank at the moment. And I'm going to make that a little bit darker in certain areas. As we move away from the sun, it gets darker, so make sure that we keep that there. Add a little more yellow. And then lighten like this area up a little bit that's closer to the sun. Perfect. And then do that around here as well. But this light in this section, we definitely need it to be more pink. So I'm going to go in with some more of my white, some more of my Naples red, yellow, and then a little bit of that magenta color that we have. So we're actually going to move on now to the flowers. Like I said, we're not going to get too detailed in this painting. We're going to keep it really simple and basic at first. And if we want to go in and add a little more detail in the grass and the light rays, we will be adding because it is kind of the frontmost thing that is coming at us. So I will be adding a little more light in this section, but we're just going to move on to our trees. So our trees. We're going to move on to our magnolia tree now and our flowers and our blooms. I'm going to start by painting out some of these darker branches first, and then moving closer to the sun, we're going to lighten it up. I'm going to go in with my smaller filbert brush that I was using earlier. We're going to go in with our burnt umber, some of my magenta here, some of our red, a little bit of black. And then we're going to start drawing out some of these branches. Gonna go in with a little bit of a mixture of these two colors towards where these tree branches are near the sun, just to create that light effect on the trees. For this part of the painting, I mean, you can honestly kind of like place your branches wherever you kind of want them to go. Like, it doesn't necessarily specifically matter exactly like where they are. It's really kind of up to you, you know, where you would like to place them based on your painting as well. So, like, I'm following my reference photo, but I probably won't add all of the branches that are in this, just because I think it would be a lot to add, but to each their own. Like, whatever you really want to do, like up to you guys where you necessarily want to place all your branches. If you want to put as many as there are in this, like, that's up to you. But sometimes less is more. Like, too many branches, I feel like, will just be too distracting too. And also want to make sure that you create a variety of thicknesses with the branches. Like, I'm probably going to go in with a different brush too, just to create a couple different sizes of branches. Now that we've laid down a few of our first branches and our thicker branches, I'm going to go in with this liner brush. Sorry, it's not a liner brush. This is a long round brush from Princeton, the Aqua Elite collection. So I'm going to use this one to create some of these thinner little branches that we see in the distance. I'm also going to make sure to keep these ones a lighter color, because since they're in the distance, they're not going to be as dark as some of these other ones that are closer and in the front. We've placed a nice amount of branches. Like I said, I don't want to add too much. You can always go in and add a few more as we go on if I feel it's necessary, but I just don't want it to be too much, too distracting. We still have a lot of flowers to add too, so I don't want to just be distracted by branches. I am going to add a few more, like in this section here. Just lightly, very lightly applying those. Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and add a bit more contrast to certain branches. As you can see, like these ones are very dark up here, and I want to make sure that we are getting that contrast, because one of the things that's very important in a painting is to get the contrast. Like if you don't get that, it won't look quite right. So I'm going to go in with this brush and just, like I said, add a little bit of darkness to certain areas of my tree branches. Gonna add a little bit of darkness down here as well. Here a little bit. All right. I'm gonna leave that for now, and if I want to go in and add a little bit more darkness, I can. We can always go in and add more, but it is difficult to take things away from a painting once they have been added. Now what we're going to move on to is starting to add our flowers. I'm going to begin by adding the smallest ones that are in the distance as well as the darkest ones. So that would kind of be the ones up in this section here. I'm going to clean off my palette a bit. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, because this is a two-piece palette, I just took it apart because I felt like it for a moment, but I can put it together and then I'll have more room to mix my shades. So that's what I'm going to do. Now that we're doing the flowers in the floral section of the painting, I do want to grab a brush that is going to allow me to kind of get that petal shape while I am applying the color. So these kinds of brushes, like the filbert brush, is great for adding like little petals as well, or something like a round brush would probably be a good option as well. I'm going to start with this brush though. And as I mentioned, we're going to start with the darkest color. So I'm going to go in with this color as well as our other magenta-y color, our other one here, as well as a little bit of the red. And then I'm going to go in with adding some of our burnt umber to that, as well as some of the dilutant, just to nicely mix those colors together, as well as some of my India yellow and my other yellow here. I'm going to start with this for like the really dark sections of the flowers, like the bottom of the flowers. And basically how I'm approaching this is I'm just going to look at my reference photo and look at the sections where there's a lot of flowers. Like I said, I'm not going to be super detailed. It's not a painting where we're going to be able to be super detailed, like with, you know, the flowers and the details and the petals and whatnot, but we'll definitely just try to do as much as we can. And I'm going to be honest with you guys, like I haven't painted a flower or like anything florally in like, honestly, it's been a while. It's probably been like years. Like I did my last Magnolia cherry blossom painting in 2023. So it's literally been like time since I've even myself done a painting like this. So if you're feeling like, you know, at this part of the painting a little more nervous because you haven't painted a flower in a long time or anything like that, we're in the same boat. I haven't painted a flower in a long time either, so you don't got to be stressed about it. Like I said, this painting is for fun. Like we don't want to be stressed in this. We just want to be having a good time and, you know, painting a nice little floral scene for the season. There are some bigger flowers here, so I'm kind of just gonna trace them out a little bit with my brush. Now, as we move kind of closer down here, the colors do get lighter. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a little bit of my Naples yellow, add that in there, as well as a little bit more white. And this is going to be like the darker color for the flowers that are closer towards the sun. The bases of the magnolias on this side are almost like a little more red. So I did go in and add a little bit more red, and I'm just going to apply that towards more of the bottom. Now I'm gonna go in and start applying some of these like lighter ones that we see here. And I'm not saying that I'm done with adding other ones in this section. I kind of just want to get a general idea of exactly like how many flowers I'm gonna have and the placement of them before I finally like I want to get like a general idea of where all the flowers are gonna go before I just start detailing them too much because I don't want to like over assume where I'm going to be putting the flowers and just like have too many then. So there's also some larger ones that I do want to start adding. Like there are some bigger kind of ones, so I'm going to start applying some bigger brush strokes to capture those ones. All right, guys, so we've added like a good amount of flowers. We're gonna keep going and keep adding as many as, I feel that we should. And we're just gonna continue doing that and adding little details here and there. I've obviously worked on a couple of like the bigger flowers too, but yeah, we're just gonna keep adding them slowly and surely to the painting. We're at the point where I feel we do need to add some more contrast in our painting, specifically like in the grass area as well as on the branches and in the flowers. So I'm going to start by adding some darker greens in these areas here. I'm going to go in with some of my green, some of my white, some of my India yellow, and some of my burnt umber. Kind of going in between the sections where like the light rays are shining to create that contrast. There we go. And now I'm going to go in and add more contrast to the actual tree branches themselves. They are just definitely too light. I need them to be darker. You can't really see them, and it's important to make sure that you have that good contrast in a painting. So I'm going to go in and darken up these branches and also add a few more branches to like the sections where, for instance, these are kind of just floating in space. So I'm going to add a few more branches here. Go back in with that long round brush and with that same color, and just adding a few more detailed branches in these sections. Just want to make sure we don't miss any parts where there's some flowers and possibly no branches. Want to make sure that we get all those little branches in here and whatnot. And I'm going to go back in now and continue working on the flowers themselves. Making sure to definitely lighten up any of the flowers that are super close to the sun rays, making sure that we get that adequate highlight on the flowers. So what I'm doing now is I have this one palette here. I wanted a little bit more room to mix, so I just grabbed this palette and I'm mixing a combination of these colors on my brush, and then I'm just tapping that color down. Grabbing like all of the colors together and then putting that down. Now switching over to really working on the highlights on my flowers. All right. We've added a lot of our flowers. Now I'm going to go in with a very small brush, this #1 round brush from the Princeton Aqua Elite collection. And I'm going to go in and add some smaller little flowers in the distance more. Add a few more little guys here and there. Going in and adding some highlights to the ones that are more up here in the top where the sun is shining on them. Going in and applying a little bit more contrast to my tree branches. All right, guys, so I mean, honestly, we are getting really close to being done this painting. I'm just gonna apply a few more things here. So I feel like I should just have a little branch coming down here, maybe with a few more little flowers on there. So I'm gonna go ahead and add those. Just getting more to the detailing part of our painting now, adding all of our final flowers and kind of details to all the areas that we want to put our flowers and our branches. So I'm going to go in and kind of apply like my final tree branches to certain areas and going in and applying some final contrast to our tree branches, specifically the ones that are farthest away from the sun. And as we move closer, it's not going to be as dark. My camera died for a moment there, so I'm not sure exactly where we left off, but we're at the final stages of our painting here. I'm gonna just work on adding my final details. I just want to make this flower a bit bigger. As you can see from the reference photo, it's kind of coming off of the page there, so I want to make sure that I get that accurately. So I'm kind of just going to extend these leaves a little more out here, and then lighten up this section here. Perfect. All right, now that's looking better now. And one more thing that I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna add a little bit more of my kind of darker green in here a little bit, just a slight bit. Go just to deepen that highlight a little bit, the shadow as well. A little bit in there. All right, guys, I am going to stop here. This is one of those paintings where you could literally keep adding stuff forever. You could keep detailing, like flowers could be detailed forever and ever and ever. But like I said, this is just meant to be a nice and quicker painting process that you guys can complete in not too long of a period of time. So I'm going to go ahead and sign my painting now here in the corner. Now that I am finished. Hey guys, so we finished our painting and I'm just going to show you a little close-up of what our finished painting is. So here we are, our magnolia tree, using acrylic paint with the sun rays shining through the tree. I loved painting this with you guys. It was really fun to just do something that was more relaxed, a little bit more of an impressionist style, so not focusing on being too realistic with this one, but it was so fun to do, and it's so springy and warm and welcoming. I hope that you guys liked doing this with me, and if you did, give this video a thumbs up and let me know below if you guys enjoyed this format of a painting process video, kind of that's different than what I normally post. I'd like to know what you guys think of this, and at least, you know, once in a while it would be fun to do this kind of painting process where we can just get a painting done in a couple of hours, like I said, and not have to worry too much about all of the process and the prep beforehand. So thank you guys for watching. Let me know below what you'd like to see me paint next, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye guys.